amazing bottle pit. We were pulling Civil War era Cobalt sodas. We pulled 1905 Jack Daniels, like $700 to $900 a piece bottles. We were pulling these bottles that are just insane. I released the video, and it was almost like I got gut punched. It was like, this is one of my best videos. I put a lot more work into the editing and popping pictures up of the bottles cleaned and giving the information and old advertising and everything. And then the video just didn't perform. And so I went back to doing a bunch of digging videos trying to build the steam back up. And I just have not been able to gain the steam that the creek videos have. Like you said, I think that seems to be a key for a lot of people is they enjoy the scenery. It's a lot harder, I guess, to see somebody dig one hole and all they see is dirt and glass versus if you're walking down a beautiful creek like ours in Alabama that are crystal clear and have a super biodiverse area with fish that they can look at, and they never know what they're gonna see, I guess. So it gives a little bit more of an opportunity for people to enjoy the content. So that's been my success point, has been more of the mudlarking style video. But finding those creeks that produce good bottles is just about impossible too. I spent 2 or 3 years and walked every creek in Alabama, I feel like. I know I missed a bunch, exaggeration, but I walked a bunch of creeks, and I bet you, no lie, thousands of miles of walking these creeks. In the wintertime, 19 degrees outside in Alabama, that's freezing for down here. We're not used to that kind of weather, but I'm out there with my waders on and I'm going to town. Just keep on looking. And eventually I found 5 or 6 creeks that produce bottles after every single big rain. And now I run a circuit. So I'll run 2 or 3 of these creeks every other week. And then I go back and I run 2 or 3 of the others. And slowly but surely, they're starting to slow down their production rate. So I've got to start pounding the ground a little bit harder to find some more. Not to mention competition's picked up in them as well. Like I said, I didn't do as good of a job as I probably should have as a video creator of keeping my spot secret. However, I am very excited to say that a lot of new people have come to the hobby because of the videos as well. So, I guess it's a two-edged sword there. But I guess if it came down to me having a really cool bottle or having 100 new people in the hobby, I'd rather have more people in the hobby because the hobby itself was dying.
Right. You brought it to life again. I think that's fantastic. And how many subscribers do you have now on your YouTube channel?
We're at a little bit over 68,000. I'm estimating in the next 4 to 5 weeks we should break 70. I had a goal that's a little bit too strong for this year. I was wanting to hit 100K, but there's been a bunch of algorithm changes, and just in general, the social media stuff is just insane right now. You have a ton of people that are jumping on to live stream, live streaming detecting. You have a ton of people trying to do shorts or reels or TikToks, and just right. In general, the people that I've never seen in the hobby before in my life now, they're live streaming metal detecting. And I'm like, man, how do you compete with somebody that runs a live stream for 8 hours out of the day?
Right. Right.
And then I sit there and scratch my head and be like, do they work?
They must not. They must not. Well, so do you mind? I know that you encounter some strange things when you're out on some of these adventures. Do you have any stories you would like to share with us? Or some really strange things that have happened? Or, you go for it.
Well, we've ran into a lot of stuff. Probably some of the funnier stuff is running into territorial people that think that they are, that may have walked a creek just like I have and found a bottle. And then, somebody shows up, like I said, you can't be mad at them. Well, I've ran into some guys that have been pretty upset with me and, like, hey, this is my spot. Even to the point of I had a guy pull a gun on me over some bottles. And I'm like, man, look, here's the property lines, try to explain to the guy. And I'm like, man, nothing's worth that. So needless to say, that was a dump that was in South Alabama that we had got permission from somebody else on. And then this guy, shows up with a gun that's along the creek bank. I wasn't even in the dump at the time. And I was like, look, man, here's the deal. And I tried to explain it to him. And I never went back. It wasn't worth it. Was there good bottles there? Absolutely. And actually, that's the only place I've ever seen a Coke Hutchison bottle dug live in front of me was at that spot. But I'm not going to risk my life, for a bottle.
Not worth it. Not worth it. Yeah.
And then in the Birmingham area, Birmingham is turning into more of like a Chicago-style area. The area is really, really bad on the outskirts of Birmingham. And so we've been oftenly approached by drug dealers and different people like that, that, just as a quick story, that one of the younger guys that digs with me, when we first started digging, I think he was 20 or 21, and we parked our cars in one spot, and we were digging, and we heard somebody by our cars, and I was like, hey, go check our cars out, or go look over there and see what you see. Well, he ran over there. I didn't think it was going to be anybody, actually, or I wouldn't have sent him over there by himself. But he comes back, he's like, hey, you won't believe this. There's some guy over there, and he asked if we wanted some ice, and I told him we had a whole cooler full. I was like, hey, man, he wasn't talking about that kind of ice.
Oh, my gosh. So you have encountered some weird things, definitely.
Yeah, so
sure.
that's on the people side of it, but on the digging odd stuff, probably some of the weirdest stuff we've dug up is false teeth. I found some real human teeth, which was interesting. Must have been where a dentist had thrown stuff in the past. There was no skeletal remains or anything like that, so there was no real reason, I think, to call law enforcement about that. We did dig a couple of snakes up, which is interesting. During the wintertime, they hibernate much deeper than what you think that they do.
Wow,
so we dug
really?
snakes up out of hibernation. Let's see, I'm trying to think. We have dug up tons of different kinds of porcelain signs and stuff like that you don't think about. Early car license plates, like we're talking about pre-1910. Back then, the license plate number was 3 digits because there was less than, 1,000 cars in the area. We've done a lot of that stuff, and sadly, a lot of the really good digs that I did was before I was filming. I was more about finding than I was sharing, and, I look back on it and wish that I would have been filming at the time, but it kind of is what it is. I'm sure we all have those stories.
Right. What's the creepiest thing you've ever found? Anything?
Probably I found a voodoo doll.
Oh, creepy.
That was in a creek, not too far from where a bridge was. Needless to say, I brought it home and I burned it. But I brought it home and showed it to my wife. She's like, "That's not coming in my house."
Smart lady. Wow.
But yeah, that's probably the creepiest thing we've ever found. I know people have found witches' jars and stuff like that. Thankfully, we've never found anything like that. And that's not on my top of the list of things to find.
Right. Oh, boy. You find a lot of doll heads, like ceramic doll heads?
Tons and tons of doll heads, legs, arms. Actually, in next week's video, we'll find at least a doll leg, if I remember right. I got to edit that tomorrow as I'm sitting here thinking about it. Might be a doll head in that video too. I can't remember. We find lots of marbles. We find a lot of clay and Bennington marbles. The Benningtons are always our favorite to find just because they're much prettier to look at.
Right. I guess I've never really looked up a lot of the marbles because I find marbles all the time. I only found one today in the creek, but I've never looked up, because I've got quite a collection now, of what some of those marbles, the Bennington marbles, or any of those are worth.
Some of them can be worth hundreds of dollars.
Really?
I would lie. Yeah, I would be lying if I said that I was an expert, because I'm not. But there is a Facebook group that I'm a part of that's all about old marbles, which is pretty cool. And I did a little bit of research just trying to figure out the origin point to see how or when these things started being mass made. They had clay marbles, they had Bennington. That was when the mass production had started. But truthfully, they don't know when marbles originated. They know that it was probably native, but from what I could tell, they don't have an origination point, and they've just been around forever.
Wow. I never really thought about that, because, I dug the dump I want to take you to when you come back, which we should talk about that again. But I dig a lot of clay marbles in that one. And I know we've got to get you to come to Texas, take you to that one. But
there's
how big are the marbles in there?
I've found pretty much all sizes, but a lot of the smaller ones.
Okay, we've got one spot that we dig in that we find what they call toe breaker marbles. Because they were so big, if you dropped them on your toe, they would break them. That was what the old timers called them. And they're giant. Basically, they're giant clay marbles the size of golf balls.
Now, Amanda has found when I was in Maine that last time, her and I were at this dump. She had one that was about the size of a golf ball, wasn't it?
Yep, they're pretty big. Those are what he's talking about, where they call them toe breakers. And then the ones below it are shooters, and then you've got the other ones that are play. But there's a really, really great reference book on Amazon, and I'm sure I got mine at, I think, the old bookstore that we used to have, the local bookstore before Barnes and Noble, and it was Marbles Identification and Price Guide, and it gives a great history or what they think
is the history. Do you have that book?
I do. Yep, I do.
Oh,
you name a reference book, I probably have it, or it's on the wish list to slowly purchase before. But yeah, it helps tell all the acro and the I can't even think of them right now. Acro, vitro. Yeah, I think those are the two companies, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say your guess is as good as mine.
Oh.
you get past Bennington, and I get lost.
Yeah, the acro and whatnot are the newer. Yeah, the Bennington, those Benningtons, the blue glaze Bennington, or the ones that kind of changed color because of the soil or whatever was in the soil with the liquids, are so pretty to look at. You're right, they're gorgeous. Much better than finding the clay ones, unless you find the painted clay ones, and those ones are amazing.
We found one of those 2 weeks ago or 3. Probably the first one we've ever found that had paint remaining on it, and it had a purple line all the way around it. And I guess because the majority of our dumps were burned for so many years, I don't know if it burned the paint off or if they just weren't something that was common in our area. But when we found that one, we all kind of just looked at each other and were like, man, what about that? And so we started looking, and apparently that's a thing, and we didn't know it until just a few weeks ago. So
that's
cool.
More than I Yeah. Now the bucket list, it's on my bucket list or wish list, is there are marbles that actually have figures in them. So you can find a marble with a rooster in it, or a marble with a cow, a marble with a duck in it, and all different. They had all different. So that's that's in the book. It's something that it's been on my list for a while now.
I've never seen one like that.
Yep.
Have you ever found one like that, Brandon?
No, I have not. I wonder what years those were made.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I had never heard that. That's new.
That's the thing is you have a lot of people nowadays that are, I hate to say it, but they're snobs when it comes to certain age dumps and things like that. And what I figured out is if I'm going to dig sodas, I like digging dumps that are pre-1930. That encompasses the Deco period from the 1920s into the 30s, but it also goes back to the Hutchison style and the straight side bottles, like the straight side Cokes before the hobble skirts. That's what I really like. But if you're going to find whiskey, you got to be in a dump that's pre-1919 because of whatever the prohibition time period is for where you are. So to find whiskey-related stuff, I have to be in an older dump. But if I'm going to find porcelain signs, send me to a 1940s or a 1950s dump all day long.
Yeah.
And you'll find way more porcelain signs there than you will anywhere else. So in my opinion, every dump has its valuable layers. You just got to be willing to dig through. You just have to dig through the trash to get to it, if you will.
That is so true.
So I did look. They're called sulfide marbles, and they were produced mid-19th century up to 1930. So they actually have figures, like a figure's face, dogs. They're really neat.
Are they overseas primarily, or does it say?
I think so. They were manufactured in Germany, but they're known to be here. I've seen someone find one, so I'm like, oh, it's got to be here.
Oh yeah. See, we've never found one in all the years we've been digging. I'll ask my dad and see, but I don't think that he's found one either. That's very interesting. I mean, I guess on the same scale of smalls and not just bottle stuff you find in dumps is pipe. Finding an old pipe with a face on it.
Oh,
Or,
yes.